Welcome to another segment of our mental health moments. My name is Linda Gallick. I'm the health and wellbeing consultant at Bellin Health, and I'm so happy to be joined today by Micaella VandenBoom, who is one of our behavioral health therapists at our psych center. So, Micaella, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for taking some time today. So today we really wanted to take some time and dive into the idea of how important relationships in the workplace are. Now, we often talk about relationships, and of course, we think about relationships with our spouse and our children and moms and dads and brothers and sisters and all those types of things. But today I really want to focus on relationships at work. And a couple of reasons I'm extra inspired by this topic. I had attended a national wellness conference and we had a keynote presentation on this. And one of the things that I always share out in my work in the community and with businesses that I talk to is that people will spend an average of over 81,000 hours in their workplace in their lifetime. And so I'm really passionate about the ideas of our workplace affects us physically and emotionally to a great extent. And we spend more time at work than we do doing anything else in our lives other than sleeping.
hmm
That's the statistic. So I wanted to talk to Micaella today to help us really unpack that. What can that look like? What can we do to have better relationships at work and all that type of thing? So, Micaella, just from your perspective, what's your perspective on the importance of relationships that we have in a workplace?
You hit the nail on the head right there. I know you sent me some bullet points before we met with each other, and the first thing I wrote that we spend the majority of our time at work. And if the work environment and the people that we work with are not matching and meeting our needs, it will impact us. And I have seen it time and time again with numerous patients that I have seen throughout the couple years that I've been outpatient here is just everything else in my life is going well, but work is not. And that is the primary stressor. And that could really wear on somebody and knock them down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think about, if one of the illustrations that we hear sometimes in terms of like culture and what people are experiencing is think about fish in water. So think about the water that they're swimming in. Think about what they're taking in when they're in that water. And I think about the relationships in our workplaces because if we have good, solid relationships in the workplace, we're drinking really great water. But if we have toxicity in our workplace,
Mhm.
then we are drinking really bad water.
Right.
So where do people start, Micaella? Like how do they start to just evaluate what they have going on in the workplace relationship wise? And how do they work on maybe doing something about that?
Mhm. I think one of the first things to do is evaluate, is this a me issue? Like, am I the only person
Mm,
that's unhappy in this work environment? And what am I doing to either make that better or worse for myself? Or is this, that culture, positive culture or toxic culture? And if that's a culture related aspect and component, that's where it's important where we advocate in a proper way, in an appropriate way in the work environment to try to advocate for those needs being met and understanding like that's not going to change overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. You clean a fish tank and you're not going to have perfect water and clear water. It takes a while to get that filter going. So being
yeah.
with that process and really prioritizing inclusion and diversity and creating that
Mm.
where we're also supporting other coworkers too, because we can't expect it to be supported as a whole if we're not being supportive to the people that we're working with as well.
So sometimes when people are in a situation where they're like, oh, but this is happening to me, and there's a lot of things in our world that we can't control, but we can control ourselves. So I often encourage people to be the change that they want to see. If you're feeling disconnected in your workplace or you're feeling like you don't have connections to people and that's really taking a toll on you, what can you do to reach out? What can you do? And one thing I read recently too, it was something along the lines of concentrating on micro moments to create connections with people. And a micro moment might be as simple as you're standing in line at the grocery store and you give somebody a compliment,
Mhm.
and you all of a sudden just kind of have this connection with them. And I think those are, some of those little things, maybe we can do some of that in the workplace.
Mhm. Right. If you walk into work and the first thing you do when you clock in is just grumble about it and not have like a positive interaction with the person that you're seeing right off the bat, you're not going to feel any better about being there, and the people that you're talking with aren't going to feel any better either.
Yeah. I think one of the things even we could do, just to kind of, start somewhere is just focusing on saying hi to people and smiling at them. Like I know that everybody has a lot of work to do. We all have a lot of demands on us, no matter what kind of role you might be in your job. But gosh, that makes a huge difference if somebody just kind of starts the day that way.
Right. And treating people like people, right? In any job that we have, there is some kind of totem pole of that power, right? And if we have a job, the person above us has a job to fulfill. And yes, we're all humans, but understanding you can be a nice human and get your job done, and you also have roles to get your job done. So if you feel like attacked or victimized by the person above you or below you, keeping in
Mhm.
mind that this might not have anything to do with like their personal character. This might be their job requirements and the things that they
Mhm.
need to fulfill.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to touch on today, Micaela, was the idea of how important it is to have that sense of belonging in the workplace. How does that affect people in a positive or negative way based on their level of how they feel if they belong where they're working?
I mean, if they feel like they belong, they're going to be highly motivated to get their tasks done. They're going to be likely to speak up and support others for their ideas, other people's ideas. They're more likely to support whatever organization they're working for. I think it's
Mhm.
also important too if you're belonging and you're feeling rewarded in that position, you're going to do better work if you feel rewarded for that too.
So how can we do that better? Like how can we focus on helping each other feel that sense of belonging?
I think a lot of companies that have like a good work positive culture like that prioritize effective communication, making sure they're prioritizing like professional development, having that time set aside within the work day, the work hour, the work month, whatever that might be, to connect and decompress and really bounce ideas off of each other. I mean, like I know in the setting of us therapists, we all meet together quarterly for a big meeting to kind of be on the same page with information and any questions or topics, but also in a smaller setting too on a monthly basis, just to be able to sit down and work together and have that inclusion and, hey, I need help, I need support. What can I do? What are your ideas? What's your feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we just have to be so cognizant of remembering, to include people and to bring people to the table and ask them their ideas. You never know who's going to have a great idea. And that really creates that sense of belonging. Because if I ask you for an idea and you have one and I say, oh my gosh, that's so great, I'm totally going to use that. Now, we've created that sense of belonging. And there's so much data on the most productive employees and really even some of the highest profiting businesses have an employee culture where people have a high sense of that feeling of belonging. So it really isn't against anybody's agenda to really do that. So it's kind of a cool thing that way too. Any other thoughts, Micaela? Relationships at work, things to watch out for, things to take into consideration, tips and tricks.
I think this the biggest thing. Bottom line is remembering we're all human, right? We all
Mhm.
have personal things going on in our lives, whether that's good or bad. We all have professional struggles. We all have professional achievements, and remembering to find that balance of, yes, I'm a human and I have other things going on, but I also can show up
Yeah,
and do my work too.
yeah. Yeah, it's so important to remember we're all human beings just trying to do the best we can and giving each other the benefit of the doubt if we can. Another interesting thing just to think about is like Gary Chapman, who did the five love languages. He actually has an edition talking about those languages in the workplace. So sometimes even I think tuning into, well, what do I value in the workplace? Like, let's say I value words of affirmation. Well, how do I go about communicating that
Mhm.
that's important to me so that the people that work with me, get that? Or there may be people on your team that really value acts of service. So can you tune into that and say, well, hey, Jen, can I help you with
Mhm.
this thing? And be that person that offers an act of service. So
Absolutely.
again, we're complicated human beings, so we're just we're just trying to figure it out, right?
Figuring out in a complicated world too.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, Micaella, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. Again, we're from Bellin Health. We offer mental health resources to the community and are so proud to do so. So if you need additional assistance, please reach out. Otherwise, thanks to our audience for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.